Thanks for joining us today, guys. Today we're joined by Matt Cretzman, and excited for him to share a little bit about his experience and journey, and how he became the entrepreneur he is today, and some of the insights from him. So, Matt, without further ado, you mind introducing yourself to the audience?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Liam, I'm excited to be on the show, and thanks everybody for joining in today. Although this isn't a talk radio show, but I hope you guys get a lot out of the episode, and I'm excited to be here. So my name is Matt Cretzman, and I'm the founder of Stormbreaker Digital and Multiply 320 as well on the private capital side. The Stormbreaker is a full service digital marketing agency. And I also, through Multiply 320, dabble in alternate investments and other fun projects and stuff. Serial entrepreneur. I'm always busy doing something.
Yeah. So how'd you get to that point, right? Obviously, you've got a couple companies that you got today. Was that always your journey in terms of, being an entrepreneur, starting new things, or what did your journey like for you?
Yeah, well, to answer it like, short form, when people ask me, hey, where are you from? It's always a very difficult response. Are you talking about yesterday or are you talking about, like 10 years ago? Because I'm originally from Canada, but prior to moving here to Texas, which I've been here about 7 years, I was in the Dominican Republic and moved here from there. So my journey to entrepreneurship, I guess you could say it started at a young age, where my brother and I, who's my older sibling, we would do things in the summertime, just like, most entrepreneurs, where we're trying to hustle and make money, whether it's shoveling driveways during winter time, making a little, a few extra bucks, or opening up a snack nutrition stand on the side of the road and reselling Cliff bars and power bars and things like that to unexpected bypassers. Always have been, just an entrepreneur looking for creative ways to really add value, right? Like to make a difference in somebody's life, improve theirs, and thereby, there being a value exchange, and we can make a little money and have fun with it. So yeah, started very young, but my path to marketing, as it relates to the marketing business, if you read my LinkedIn bio, I kind of tell a brief, little anecdote. When I was about 9 years old, I remember my dad, who's always been in purchasing, marketing, logistics for food brands. And clip art was a thing when I was 9. So all of you that are saying, trying to scratch your heads about NFTs. Well, NFTs came from clip art. Okay. So clip art made NFTs cool. Back then you could make as many clip arts as you wanted and nobody would buy them. Now all of a sudden they're worth millions of dollars. So Liam, I'm trying to dig up my old, clip art from back in the day. Guys, if you want to buy any, just send me an email and I'll send you some of the, the old school clip art that I made. But
Remarketed as modern day NFT.
Totally, man. There's all kinds of utility with those NFTs. Let me tell you something. All right, backed by a lot of collateral. So when I was young, I just remember designing a cereal box brand with clip art, and at a young age, I was, creating these brands. And my brother and I used to go to trade shows like the National Food Innovation Show, National Grocers Show. My dad would come back home and he would always tell us about new products, new launches that launched at the show. And so from a young age, I had a passion for food and I had a passion for marketing and entrepreneurship. And so, yeah, that's kind of the seeds that were planted at a very young age about all of those things. But I did not go to school for marketing or business. I actually went to seminary. My background is Baptist, and so I went there because in my teen years, Liam, I traveled and I saw, some things in other countries that just really touched my heart, and I wanted to find a way to make a difference and help people in impoverished second or third world countries to help improve their lives. So that's how I ended up in the Dominican Republic. I wanted to do something to make a difference. So after I graduated college, I quit my sales job. At the time, I was selling cars, German cars to a German community, which wasn't that hard. I was the top salesman, so they were sad to see me go. But I was having a good time there. But quit that job and just started traveling around and sharing my heart for the nonprofit that I founded, which was called Rooftop Missions. And we were serving people in communities, raising up leaders, doing leadership training. I was a global associate trainer with the Maxwell team and took John's leadership curriculum through Equip International, and we were pouring into leaders, helping them to have the skills really to make an impact right where they are. And so I'll kind of give you a little bit of a snapshot to some things that transpired those years that really most people know me by and have really defined my life. Married young at 21, had my first child at 22, and then 2010 had my second. But in 2012, my family and I were in a car accident, and my firstborn passed away in the car accident. She was 3 years old, and it was a very defining moment for me in my life. But through that, I ended up in India, and I met some very special people that I ended up partnering with and starting an orphanage in my daughter's memory 8 months later. So India has about 35 million orphans, and meeting them firsthand and, holding them and just listening to them and seeing their living conditions, me being a dad, furthermore, dad to girls, I have 3 girls. One is obviously no longer here, but my heart was touched, and I wanted to make a difference. So we started the orphanage, and still going, here we are 10 years later, making a difference. But it's been a winding road, which you can kind of, I'll let you ask some questions and poke and prod, but I'm an open book. And Liam, I'm grateful that every experience that I've been through has made me better. And I never wanted to get bitter because of what happened in my life. I always wanted to find a way to use it and leverage it for a way to help somebody's day become brighter, whether that be orphans or friends around me or my family. And I'm very grateful that I've experienced valleys, but also mountaintops. And it's been a cool journey.
What took you to India?
So one of the people that I formed a relationship with around the time of the accident, it made local news, and we were in the paper, and I was doing some live spots and stuff. And so for whatever reason, the community just caught attention of our family, and word kind of spread around. So there was a neighboring pastor that came out and was just loving on my family. His son was the same age as me. His name's Josh Cox. Maybe I'll pass this link to this episode so Josh can listen, but Josh's dad had been serving in India for about 30 years. And, he was older at the time and was looking for some fresh leadership, to kind of carry it forward. And so he invited me to go on a trip. I grew up watching Indiana Jones and Star Wars. So naturally, you invite me anywhere, I'm going to go. It doesn't really matter where, if it's the jungle or, on the back roads, living in a hut, I'm all about it. So I accepted and went on the trip, and got to meet some incredible people through that trip. And that's essentially how I got there, was just through an invite through a new friend who we became lifelong friends.
How did lots of things that are not easy just pick up and move, right? So
Yeah.
if I'm doing the math correctly, you had a young daughter at the time. Yeah. I'm guessing you were working, doing something, right? Like, how do you position yourself, or how were you able to make that choice, and what did that look like to be able to just be like, no, this is where I need to be now?
So somebody said to me years ago, couple things come to mind. One, John Maxwell says everything worthwhile is always going to be uphill. Okay. So I don't necessarily interpret difficulty or challenge as a closed door. I look at, I'll filter, difficult times and challenge through the lens of, is this fulfilling my purpose? And is this in line with my life mission? Am I passionate about this? Is there some positive outcomes that are coming from this? Right. So I'll juggle both those, and I'll weigh it, through both those lenses. But ultimately, another friend said to me, he said, Matt, don't waste your wounds. He said that as well. So, another friend said to me when I was in the hospital on the stretcher, and I had just gotten news that my daughter had passed, he said, Matt, you have an opportunity now to prove to everybody whether everything that you've said was real or if it was fake. Right. And I had been this person that had traveled around and told people to have greater faith and believe and never give up and, persevere. And when the rubber hits the road, I think we all need to decide if we're serious about what we believe, number one, what do we believe, right? What are our convictions and values, and are we actually living that out? Yeah, it certainly wasn't, necessarily easy to pick up and move. And, we had a decision whether or not we could stay in the United States or move to the Dominican Republic, which was always our plan. But man, it came through a lot of prayer, came through a lot of counsel. I've always been somebody that surrounds my life with people that are much smarter, much more experienced than I, and they've kind of guided me, all my life in my decision making. And ultimately, there's just a certain peace that comes with making hard decisions in hard times.
How do you articulate your purpose and your vision, right? You said, obviously you were sharing a little bit about that and your convictions. People probably knew you for your convictions and not necessarily, what that purpose was that was driving you, right? But, what was that for you, and how did you, center yourself on that?
Yeah. Purpose, mission statement, right? Some simple things that just, that resound in my mind, and that I'm constantly thinking about, like, my interactions with people. Do they walk away from me feeling better than they did before? My motivation kind of shifted when, my daughter passed. I would say many times to people and from the stage, and publicly or privately, I would just say, the next time I see my daughter, I want her to look at me and say, "Dad, I'm so proud of how you handled, and how you lived your life." Right. I just always want to live my life in a way that I exhaust every ounce that I have, and I make the biggest splash that I possibly can, but then making those people that matter most to me really proud. And just ensure that every interaction with people is just lifting them up, encouraging them. They walk away thinking that they can conquer the world. And if I can do that, from like nonprofit and personal relationships and those activities all the way to my business interactions, like my clients, like I want my clients to come and experience Matt and experience Stormbreaker and, multiply 320 and just be like, I'm excited they get a renewed, vigor for life and feel like they can go and do big things and conquer the world. That's just how that's my mission. Like those are my values. That's my conviction. That's how I live my life.
So how does one who, living by that conviction, right? Obviously in the nonprofit space has been huge, spending a lot of time in foreign countries, Dominican, India, et cetera, come to run a marketing agency and run a alternative asset investment group, right? Those two things, like what's the linkage and how did you get there to, be able to support both those, pretty heavy, and I'm assuming time consuming, right? Or a big part of who you are, not necessarily time consuming, but, in your life.
Yeah. It's a story, right? Life's a journey and it's a winding road. You never know, what tomorrow is going to bring. But the one thing that I encourage people to have, and myself, I try to practice and sharpen, is awareness. Because a lot of times it's easy to fall into the routine of just living your life, right? And not really be aware of opportunities that could be staring us in the face, but we can't see the forest from the trees. So I'm constantly trying to develop a greater sense of awareness for those around me, what their needs are, but also where are the opportunities, right? Where are the opportunities and where are they in relation to my skill set and my abilities and my relationships? So most people know me as a connector. Like I have a heightened sense of where people are, what they need, and who do I know that can fill that need. And that's where kind of the deal making part of me comes in as I'm connecting dots. But I fell into marketing because through 2016, 17, and 18, I had to transition out of nonprofit and became a full-time single dad to my girls and had to raise them. I couldn't travel as much as I used to. And so 2018, through all those years, I wandered and I was looking for the next thing. And my prayer was, I'm not looking for a handout, I'm looking for a hand up. Because with my identity being tied so much in my nonprofit activities as a man, and I think just as, people in general, we need to know that our life matters and that what we do, counts towards something, and that we find fulfillment in the work that we're doing, which I think is, part of the reason why there's the great, there was the great, what did they call it last year? The great resignation. Is that what it was?
Yep.
Yeah. Of people just leaving their jobs because they're like, I'm not fulfilled anymore. Like I got to find something that fulfills me. So that came through the course of an interaction, an introduction from a friend who introduced me to a guy named Brad. And my friend knew I was looking for something, and he knew Brad was looking to hire somebody. And so he put us together. We sat down. He talked about, he owned a marketing agency, still does to this day, and we still stay in contact. He's been doing it for 10 years, and he was looking for somebody to essentially run like BD, and do sales and marketing strategist, all things that I've done, whether it be as a kid or in my nonprofit. And so he gave me a shot, and he hired me. So all through 2019, I saw the inner workings of a marketing agency, how to hire and train, where to find clients, how to sell those clients, how to package things, how to, audit a brand's digital presence. And through 2019, from the operational side of business, I learned a ton. But then something else magical happened in 2019, and it was I went all in on LinkedIn. And I've kind of like had a love-hate relationship, I think, with like most people with social media. It's like you can't ignore it, but I don't really want to use it every day. But LinkedIn was just a platform that I just felt like a pull to get into LinkedIn. And it's my favorite platform because it's a business. It's a business platform. It's a place for me to network. And once I figured out how to target anybody in the world and start a conversation with them in a relational way, and that I could bypass every gatekeeper to talk to that person, I was like, well, heck, the world is my oyster. Like I'm unstoppable. I can literally do anything I want and talk to anybody I want. So I started a podcast in 2019 with Brad, and I leveraged the podcast and LinkedIn to find guests, probably very similar to what you're doing and most, podcast hosts do. And it became a way for me not only to build business, but to build relationships. And so since 2019, I've been consistently reaching out to people every day on LinkedIn. I had probably 250 connections when I started. Now I'm over 13,000. But some of the relationships became key, and I'll come back to that later as far as alternate investments and private capital. But what I identified was, yes, I'm a marketer and I'm a creative, but what I really like is growth hacking. I love growth hacking. And growth hacking in its most simplistic terms is it's accelerated growth through data and automation. And so most people hear, LinkedIn lead generation, automation, like, oh yeah, those spammy messages. No, oh, they don't work. Like I tell them, no, they don't. Well, yeah, they don't work, but they didn't work because they didn't have a strategy. And so I became the guy that got really good at understanding product or service, your ideal market. Where do I find them? And how can I find them and reach out to them in a way that's relational, adds value, but piques their interest and starts a conversation? So I started working with one local sports team, the Mavericks G League affiliate, the Texas Legends, Malcolm Farmer. Shout out, love you, Malcolm, good friend. And we've been working with them ever since 2019. And worked with their sales team. Their sales team, they all have LinkedIn profiles. They didn't really know how to use them properly. Me understanding the tech, and then my creative side as a marketer, I had to figure out the data side of things, which I eventually did. I would come in and we would put together a strategy to list build, write messages, outreach, run campaigns, leverage LinkedIn events, Zooms, webinar, like everything, and just put together a really nice strategy and execute on it. Got pretty good, word spread, and we quickly had like 25 clients. And so I became very passionate about that, and just launched my agency January 2020. COVID actually worked in my favor from a business perspective because it forced a lot of businesses to get online. So I served the clients that I had really well. They saw results, word spreads. I built relationships with some key referral partners. Kevin Hodes, love you, bro. Swipeit.com. He sent a lot of referrals. And then I just, grew in my knowledge of marketing and growth hacking. And now we're growth hacking on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all the social media platforms, and all of it for, top funnel lead generation, as we would call it. And then the private capital side of things came about through another friend who'd been in the space for a couple of years. he thought, Matt, you're a great networker. Let me teach you some things about private capital. Cool. I'm a sponge. Let me soak it up. And so 2021, all of last year started an LLC and just spent, splitting my time between marketing and private capital. I leveraged what I knew on LinkedIn to build a global network of investors and investor partners, also to build relationships with referral partners and get deal flow. And I figured out, and this is a little tidbit for you business owners out there, what business can you start that feeds your other business? If you can be strategic and smart and figure out a way to add an additional line of service or business that creates an ecosystem, that's going to help you win. And for me, that was private capital and digital marketing, because I knew if I was sitting at the table of, like say a VC, and they've got 20 portfolio companies that are funded and they're looking to go to market, maybe they're international, they're looking to go to market here in the US, I can help them. I know the market. I've got fast growth acceleration programs for digital, and I also have relationships with investors. So which one do you want? Like, how can I help you? Like raise more capital or get more results online? And so the one just feeds the other. And so, that's kind of how I fell into it. Now I'm most closely aligned with Trivium Global and Jonathan Patton. 20 years experience in capital raise, raised over $250 million. And so we're providing capital advisory services and just helping tech startups grow and growing the marketing company. My brother became my partner last year in the marketing agency, and it's just fun. So that's the long answer to your brief question.
So I want to go back and fill in one hole on the journey side and then dive into some of the business. So you mentioned 2015, 2016, essentially became single full-time dad. Again, if I'm doing math right, your girls at the time then were what, 3 and 5-ish roughly?
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Exactly. So, I mean, it sounds like there's another huge event or story there that is very formative in your life.
Yeah, totally. Yep. They say the statistic for married couples that lose children is 87% end up in divorce. And it's extremely high. And I think every married couple out there, when they hear that and they think about it, they're like, well, why wouldn't a catalytic event, like that bring you closer together? And, idealistically, we all want to be in the 13%. But when the rubber meets the road, if you're not a healthy person and you don't have healthy habits of how to deal with grief, it will manifest itself exponentially as time goes on. And I had different ways of dealing with my grief than my spouse at the time. I started an orphanage. I self-published a children's book, and I found ways to publicly talk about and serve and help parents who have also lost kids, which all kinds of them have. And it's just how I've lived my life, right? I'm looking for a way to make somebody else's life better through what I've gone through. And so, we dealt with it differently, and unfortunately it ended in divorce. But, my kids and I today are extremely close because we've been through a lot together, and they have seen a dad who has never given up on them and has figured out a way, no matter what stage of life I'm in, to provide for them, and to ensure that we as a family are taken care of.
Yeah. And to your point, right, we all want to be the 13%. And with your seminary background and religious, I'm sure there was even more pressure on that component, right, to try to figure things out and shit. And then all the stuff that you're talking about, you effectively did as a full-time single parent with young kids, right? Like, and that should be, quite frankly, motivation for people out there, right? Like, look at what Matt has done here, and like, don't limit yourself. Figure out how to surround yourself with the right people, and you transition your whole everything, right? You moved into a different space. You learned a different business. You raised 2 amazing girls, I'm sure, along the way, right? Still doing that. I hear it never ends. That's what my parents tell me, at least, right?
Exactly.
And like, man, the life experiences along the way that have shaped you, right?
Yeah. So
What you've
we,
endured.
we can talk about like imposter syndrome, because that's it's kind of like overused now, but it is very real. Because when I went through that period of transition and I had to start something new, when you're starting a new business, people are always asking you the question, well, where are your results? Show me your results. How do I know that you can really do this and pull this off? But when you're in the beginning stages and you don't really have those case studies to show people, and you're really green and still trying to figure things out, frankly, I didn't really care. If I was always in the rooms where I was I'm not gonna say the dumbest, but I was always in the room where there was way smarter and way more successful people than me. And I just relentlessly pursued, how can I add value to their lives? How can I where's the opportunity in all of this? Where are the gaps? Like, what are some of their goals, right? Like, how can I serve them? And I just consistently, as uncomfortable as it is, got in those spaces, went to those conferences, talked to them, called them, all the while not feeling like, I'm the world's greatest marketer. I certainly didn't have the results to back it up. But like you said, I had to provide for my family. And I was going to, number one, I was never going to give up. Like, what alternative did I have? But number two, I'm going to show my kids what success looks like. And success is not an event, it's an attitude. And my attitude was always success oriented. I will be a success because I never quit and I keep going and I'm going to figure it out. and eventually, I did. And so some of the early deals that I did were, exchange of services, and so I'm going to do some marketing for you. You're going to do this for me. And then there's a couple case studies and success stories. Great. Who else do you know? And what would you pay for this service? And that was just in the early days. That's just how I got started. And it just all snowballed.
Which leads us, took us a little longer to get here, but the power of the story, I think, is hugely impactful. But once you got to that point of success, right, and that financial success, didn't have to worry about roof over the head anymore, food on the table, night girls are taken care of. You probably got additional support to help with that along the way, right? What was your framework in terms of where you put your investment, right? At what point did you decide to go invest in another company, right, versus pouring back, into the house or taking care of the girls in school? Like, how did you make those choices, and what kind of guides that for you?
Yeah, great question. Number one, real estate, right? So I bought a house, and I had owned a house previously, but 2018 had $12 in my bank account and was worried about how I would pay for gas. And then, just this past, our first year we did, over $500,000 in revenue in our first year, and then more the next year. And then this year we're projected to, double that. I'm very excited for the future. Where did I invest it? Real estate. And then I balance between things and experiences. And you'll understand this as a parent. Buying my kids more stuff teaches them the value of the temporal. Buying my kids experiences teaches them the value of relationships. And so I'm going to invest more in the relational, the experiential side of things, because I've got a short window with them, especially while they're young. And so that doesn't mean that we, take these wild, exorbitant trips all the time, but I'm intentional about making smart decisions with my money that's going to yield a return, and I've owned this house not for very long, but there's a lot of equity in it. The market's great. I got in, fantastic. Like that side is taken care of. But then experiences for my kids, we're going to do some of those fun things that they're going to look back on and they're going to remember. And they're going to cherish those memories for a lifetime. And then not only experiences with my kids, but experiences with other people that matter. I invest in those closest relationships around me on a regular basis. I'm going to go and grab lunch. I'm going to go and have, do golf with them for a day. And I'm just going to continue to nurture and love on those people that have made the biggest difference in my life just by spending time with them and just being thoughtful. Not the least of which, because there is a very happy ending to the story. Not only did I end up, I'm able to buy a house in a community that I dreamed of living in when I first moved here to Dallas. And my kids go to a private Christian school that I dreamed they would be able to go to. But now I'm getting ready to marry a woman that I never imagined I would ever find. And, God just so graciously brought her into my life, and we're planning the most epic wedding. So again, where do you put your money in your best, like, again, experience, like, we're going to have the biggest wedding, you could ever imagine. And everybody who's invited is just, we're going to love on them. And they're going to know that because they were there for me when it mattered most, I'm going to appreciate them, and I'm going to honor them. And, now October 14th is the date, and we're very, very excited, thrilled. Nadia, I love you.
What's the one thing that, as you get up or you're thinking of putting money in today, or, wanting to grow, is the most exciting for you that, gets your juices flowing in the morning?
Yeah, for sure. Very simple. So there's this one tech startup that I'm working very, very much with right now. And just by virtue of me having the two businesses that I have, I come across very interesting tech companies and tech startups. One of them that has totally captured my attention is called Home AR. It's a augmented reality real estate tech startup. And what they do is they essentially take floor plans for any pre-construction or existing construction and convert it into augmented reality. So it solves a big problem in the market, which is you still have those buyers and sellers that want to be able to experience a property before they buy it or before it's built without having to travel and go there and actually physically be there. So we can take the plans, and it's not VR, it's AR. So you can walk through it with your phone, a tablet, and it provides that spatial awareness for what the property looks like. So, if I'm looking for a place to invest my money or in something, that could yield a high return, there are some platforms out there that would allow you to do this, like republic.com. If you want to look for alternate investments and fast growing tech companies, Republic is like a Reg CF. So it's a crowdfunding public offering. You can invest in brands there, or, build a relationship with somebody who has access and really has a knowledge of what's disrupting the market right now. And everything that I've seen about this specific tech, Liam, is unbelievable. Like, the market adoption is very fast, and we can barely keep up. So something like that would be that's where I'd put my money.
Very cool. As we're wrapping up here, what's one piece of advice you'd leave with the audience?
Never underestimate the value of smart relationships. The relationships that I have been so grateful to have over the past 10 years have carried me through my darkest valleys to my most incredible experiences. I have a small group of, maybe 5 to 10 that have been with me through everything. And I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for them. And so, if you're alone and you feel like you don't have people like that, it's by choice. You can go out there and you can find people, and maybe LinkedIn is a platform for you. Some of my best friends have come through LinkedIn. Whether it's Wasim in Dubai, or Jonathan Patton at Home AR, or Kevin Hodis, or Malcolm Farmer, or, I could list any number of people that have come through LinkedIn. But put yourself out there, find people that are further ahead than you, and find a way to serve them like crazy and just love on them and listen.
What's the best way for people to be able to connect back to you if they want to get in touch?
Yep. They can find me on LinkedIn. Just search Matt Cretzman, or you can go to our website, which is unleashstormbreaker.com, and you can fill out our contact form. If you get the name, the inspiration for the name right, I'll give you a little bonus, Stormbreaker. So send me an email if you know where Stormbreaker came from. Maybe we'll give you like a free website or something.
Appreciate the time today, Matt.
Yeah, thank you, Liam. Really appreciate it.